Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Ian Mackenzie Thurley. I'm the Executive Director here at the Fitton Center for Creative Arts, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you this afternoon back to the Fitton Center for our first event of our 2023-2024 30th anniversary season here at the Fitton Center. Thank you very much. As ever, I would like to thank our good friends at ArtsWave in Cincinnati, the Ohio Arts Council, the City of Hamilton, and the Hamilton Community Foundation for the sustained support of the Fitton Center. It is greatly appreciated. Please do put your hands together. Thank you. I would like to thank our continuing series sponsor, Ms. Kathy Klink, right down here at the front for support of Celebrating Self this year, and direct from Italy himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Phil Nuxall. Thank you so much for being our sponsor today for today's event. We greatly appreciate it. And by no accident, I'm looking at two people who are incredible supporters of the arts, not just here at the Fitton Center, but throughout the tri-state area and their community. And we really do appreciate it. I cannot say it enough. Thank you so much for the money. We appreciate that. We always do. But bringing people and coming to the arts and supporting the arts and advocating for the arts is the most valuable thing we have from our donors and our sponsors and our members, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. So much to see and do here at the Fitton Center. The very first thing is, after we're finished today, does anybody here have an electric vehicle? All right. Does anybody here thinking about getting an electric vehicle? Yes, there we go. We have an EV station, electric vehicle plug-in station, with our partners at the City of Hamilton and the Hamilton Community Foundation. That has been installed, so we're doing a little celebration out there and plugging. We do have a friend who has an EV, and plugging that in this afternoon at 1:30. So if you'd like to come and see what that's all about, it is not the future. Not the future, it's the now. So we've got that all going on. Lots of fun things to see and do here at the Fitton Center. We start our Fitton Family Fridays very soon with the smartest girl in the world. And then we have a 90s party. We turned 30 this year. The Fitton Center is itself a child of the 90s. So we have a great 90s event on Saturday the 30th. So bring your neon, bring your corduroy, I don't remember. It was only 5-10 years ago, the 90s. I wasn't in high school. I wasn't in college. I don't know why they're playing it on those classic stations. But we're going to have a bit of fun with that. But there's always things to see and do here at the Fitton Center. Our galleries are open right now with some incredible local and nationally recognized artists. And of course, we have fantastic art you'll see down there by artists from here at the Fitton Center, from our instructors, from our events team, from our administrative team, with their art on the walls. It's pretty incredible. I could introduce this man, but he's going to talk a little about himself. But I talked about art advocacy and about Hamilton and what's going on. And Rodney has been an amazing advocate for the arts. We've had the art show here at the Fitton Center. I've been interviewed and on the TV, but they've been here to do segments just here at the Fitton Center and interview other people and do stand-ups from here. It's been really fantastic. But Rodney himself, you'll see him here at events. He was here at season launch. He has been here for gallery openings. At gallery openings, he's met other artists and arts leaders here in Hamilton, and that's had him supporting other projects up at Art Space and being hung on the walls at Art Space. He is an instructor over at Miami Valley Ballet Theater and an incredible advocate for Hamilton. We know who we are. We are batting. We bat well above our average, punch well above our weight in the arts and in many things here in Hamilton. But getting that word out is always the most challenging, and having a voice like Rodney's to project that out both in Dayton and in Cincinnati and beyond has been incredibly positive. But he puts his money where his mouth is, and he is here physically a lot in Hamilton and in supporting the arts, and we really do appreciate it. So to have him here today to tell his story, to talk about the incredible art show and our partners at CET, that is fantastic thing. So it gives me great pleasure to bring to the stage right now Mr. Rodney Veal.
I'm Rodney Veal, host of the award-winning series, The Art Show. Each week, we profile local, regional, and national artists and arts organizations. Southwest Ohio is home to strong arts communities, and we're bringing that raw local talent right to your living room. There's nothing happening here? Think again. Okay, hello. I promise not to stand in front of the projector, but hi, I'm Rodney Veal. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hear me tell my story and the story of the art show. As Ian said, I am a fan of Hamilton. I can't fanboy out enough about your community. I do make that 45-minute drive to come see art and to see artists and engage with them. It matters. It matters to be, not just someone on the television screen, but someone in person who is really advocating for the arts. So here we go. So you're never born as a television host. Just to clarify, this was not on the bingo card of life that I was going to be a television host. I originally envisioned myself first to be a zoologist. My parents will verify that, until I found out I was afraid of reptiles. Doesn't work. But art and visual art was always my thing. And when I was a small child, I do remember my first drawing that really spoke. And it was in kindergarten, and I drew a bird of paradise, full plumage, the proportions, everything, scale, everything was exactly, it looked like the bird. And I remember our kindergarten teacher saying, "This is really impressive, like the skill set you're showing. Do you know what it is?" I said, "It's a bird of paradise. It's from the Amazon rainforest. Don't you know this?" And then I just went back to drawing. So clearly I was a kid who read a lot and led to an artist. But I just saw my life being in the arts as a visual artist. But then I kind of stumbled into dance. And that became, you can stumble into dance, by the way. And I took dance as a PE requirement in college at Eastern Michigan University. And it led to a dancing career. On top of a degree in visual arts and political science. I clearly am that kind of guy who goes all in. And so, the art show. So the art show started in 2013. And you got to understand, and this to kind of give you the hint of why this was so important. In 2013, I was coming off of something that I don't talk about a lot, is the fact that I was recovering from having been diagnosed with sarcoidosis. Now, in 2011, I was at the height of a life where I was making art. I had my first museum exhibition. I thought, this is it. I graduated from the Ohio State University with a graduate degree in dance. I am doing it. This is fun. I'm in it. I'm immersed. I'm doing all the things that I claimed that I wanted to do and set out to do. And then this diagnosis hit. And it wasn't an instant diagnosis. It was, I'm losing weight. But I'm eating. And I have an appetite, and I cannot wait to hit the buffet after this. That I didn't understand what was going on. And I'm a physically active guy. 2 months into dramatic weight loss, I went to the doctors, and we started that process. And anyone who's ever gone through a process of diagnosis, it takes a long time. Someone who is physically active, someone who danced, moving, making, creating, who suddenly is, by the end of the journey of diagnosis, had lost 66 pounds. Okay, so this figures into the story, and it was very, very, I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand, how is it that I'm healthy and I do all the right things, and I'm losing weight, and then we have to go to this diagnosis. And I'm very lucky, and what I love about Ohio, and it all ties in, is that we have a specialist, Dr. Hemant Shah, who is a specialist in sarcoidosis and lung diseases. Sarcoidosis normally affects the lungs, but for me it was affecting my liver and my intestines. So I was eating food, it was like Ozempic. I was eating food, but it was just going straight to the body. Once we got the diagnosis, that was like, oh yes, now we know what it is, and we started the rounds of prednisone, which was ridiculous and crazy. I just, and it took a long time to recover to get the weight back. I decided to apply in 2012 for the very first TEDx Dayton, and I got in, and it was to tell the story of my journey with sarcoidosis. But I wanted to tell it through dance. I wanted to tell it through art. And so I created a work called In the Shadows, and I used dancers at the time while I was teaching at Stivers School for the Performing Arts in Dayton, Ohio. And they performed it, and it was great, and it was having a fantastic time. I was telling the story, and I used music from all over the world, and I wanted to showcase that you can make art with artists on different continents because of technology. You don't have to be in the same room with someone to make work. And they created the soundtrack to this piece that was performed. I get off the stage, and there is Richard Nordstrom, who works at CET, and at the table, the CET Think TV know who he is. He is a rascally character, to say the least. He is a character, nonetheless. And he's a good, big-hearted man. And he remembered me from an event that I did years and years ago when I was dancing. And it was a commercial. And the commercial was for math. And my line was, "Math will rock your world." And if you knew me back in undergrad, it didn't rock my world. It nearly derailed the train, actually. It nearly stopped me in full motion. And I thought that was always funny, that I was the one delivering this line with humor and gusto, like, "Math will rock your world." Okay. And he remembered, we had a great conversation, and it was like, it was delightful to see him again. Here I'm feeling grateful for every day and opportunity that if you run into someone from your past. I was just happy to be breathing. I was happy to be moving, was happy to be still creating. And Richard mentioned my name to Lynette Carlino, who at the time was a producer at Think TV and CET Connect. And I met, and she called me, and she said, let's have coffee. We sat, and it was supposed to be an hour-long conversation that became a 2.5-hour conversation. And I thought, she said, "We want to do this show, this thing called the Art Show, and we want you to audition to be the host." And I'm like, at this point, you've already kind of written your will, so to speak. You think you're done, and you're like, let's take a chance on this. And so I auditioned at the station. I remember Lynette was there, Richard was there, and then they brought in David Fogarty. There were 3 people that kept coming in and out and watching me deliver, reading a teleprompter, which is a skill that I didn't realize I possessed. And so we started that process of, they said, "Would you be interested in doing the show?" And I was like, okay. And they explained to me that the show would showcase and highlight local artists alongside regional and national artists, and that the local segments would go into a collective pool for all other national PBS affiliates to do a similar type show. So we would be able to tell the story of artists in Southwest Ohio and promote them as well. And I took it as a win-win. It can't just be about me, and if you ever met we joke they want to meet my parents, you can never have a large ego or a large head in our family. That just doesn't work. You will always be handed the garbage bag and say, "Here, take the garbage out. Nobody cares. Go." It's like, I don't care if you want an Emmy, whatever. And so this process, to me, it was a win-win. And so we started in the very first location, Linden Davis Building in Dayton. And let me tell you, that was an interesting experience. What a building. But we started there, and we moved to another location inside the building, and we started the show. Just, if you understand television, what you see in the camera, you see how beautiful it is, and they do a wonderful job of lighting and setting a set, but you don't see that it's in a warehouse that has tar dripping down the side of the walls. But we've made it look like a loft. We made it look like an accessible space. And we were off to the races. And so in 2013, here we are, we premiere the Art Show. And it was kind of like a surreal adventure and experience, because At that point, yeah, people knew me as an artist. Those in the know in the art world knew me as a dancer and a choreographer, making my work. But this is different. This is a very different sort of notice, that people see you on television, and you're in their homes, and you're telling the story of artists in Southwest Ohio and the region and the nation. And it's exciting to me, and I'm like, I didn't realize how powerful and potent that is. And there was one time, and I'm always moving really quickly and moving very fast. I mean, I'm a dancer, so I'm probably going to start dancing on stage at some point, because I'm like, oh, this is what we do naturally. And I was in a hurry, going to go teach a dance class at Sinclair, and I'm rushing to get to Building 2, which is where the dance studio is located. And there's a little boy, African-American boy, I assumed African-American, but the story, and his mom, and he was like maybe 7, and he stops in his tracks, and he just stares at me. And I stopped and went, whoa, okay, not threatening, not threatening, not threatening. And I'm like, not here to abduct you, let me, oh, what's going on here? And his mom said, and I realized that she was an immigrant. She was from Somalia. And she said, oh, don't worry, don't worry. He recognizes you from the art show. And I went, oh, so you guys watch the art show? She goes, oh, we watch PBS all the time, because I'm learning English as a second language. I'm here at Sinclair, and it's just, we love PBS and what it does and all the programming, and this is how I'm learning the language. But for him, it's like, this is the first time he's ever seen a black man in a position to talk about art and culture. Seeing someone who looks like him, with a smile on his face, loving art. And I just went, this is bigger than you. Your representation matters. And so I'm off to the races. I'm thinking, I'm celebrating art for other artists and art makers. I'm celebrating Southwest Ohio. I am helping people recognize that we can be representative in our community in a positive way. This doesn't get any better. Well, it does get better, because we won our first Emmy in 2014. And that was crazy, bizarre, weird, because we're kind of looked upon, no offense to those who think of PBS, we're not weird, but we are different from regular broadcast television. And so you go to this experience where there are people in news, broadcasting and journalism and all walks of life and television, and there you are with a show about art and culture, and then you win an Emmy. That is about the most surreal experience you have. They hand you an Emmy, and you do, when people get up on stage and say, I didn't prepare a speech, it's real. There's no way to prepare a speech for winning an Emmy, because you don't know. It is really a crapshoot. It is really a gamble. But I remembered I didn't thank my partner, and I didn't thank my family, which, had to go back and do that behind the scenes, which is what you do. But it's that embrace that the television about art and culture can have an impact, and they can say, yes, you're doing it well. You're doing an exceptionally good job of telling the story. And so you're just like, oh, this is cool. Now you remember, this is 2014. So then it starts to lead to things within a community. Because when you start, because I love art anyway, I'm immersed in it as an art maker. Now people are asking you, can you be on this board? Can you come to this event? Can you lend your support? And then I realized that, oh, you can use this vehicle and a platform to change the world in your small way, in your community. Support and celebrate what Southwest Ohio is about. Southwest Ohio is amazing. We should shout it from the rooftops, right? The art and the cultural makers in Ohio, you gotta remember, Ohio is the 5th populous state in the country. Where do you think these artists in New York and LA come from? They come from Ohio. Oh my God, get real. The excellence is from us, not them. It's just amplification. Very different. Different kind of language. And so that's why it matters. It matters to tell the story and be out there and to go see as much. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that the more you see, the more you experience, the more you not only know about the art, the more you know about yourself, the more you know about your community, the more you know about someone else and their thoughts, their feelings, their intentions about the work that they make. That is the magic of art and culture. The fact that there's an abundance of it, the fact that the fitness center is here, the fact that there's 2 floors, 3 floors of art and art making, a space in which to have a conversation about art and culture, tells me that Hamilton rocks, as it should be. It should be celebrated. And once I discovered that, and I met David Stark with the art space, and that has turned into a friendship. Because guess what? I'm seeing and meeting artists who are on the journey. That's the best part about the show. For me, it's not just getting, to do this. It's the fact that I get to discover other artists and go down rabbit holes and kind of get invited to their studios, get to hear from them what started their journey of art making. And so all of that's starting to happen. And so now I'm on 6 nonprofit boards. I can't say no. It's ridiculous. You need to learn to, my partner says, you need to say no. you need time for yourself. You need time for your own art making. But I feel I'm not doing it to be on the board just for the sake of being on the board. I'm not a wealthy man. We'll talk about that later. But there's an opportunity for making the changes. Being the advocate for the art and the art makers. The most proud, 2 things I'm very proud of through the art show is Levitt Pavilion and Ohio Dance. Levitt Pavilion in Dayton. How many people have been to Levitt Pavilions in Dayton? You need to go. It's really, you get an opportunity to see up-and-coming artists before they become famous. The ratio of Grammy winners that have become Grammy winners because they performed through the Levitt circuit is huge. So you get to see people and experience them first. But building the Levitt happened at the same time. And I'll be honest, I don't think the crew even knows this. They leveraged the fact that I was with the art show and I was such an advocate and a proponent for the arts. So they're like, well, if he's into it, it must be worth it. And so this became a part of building something that has changed the fabric of downtown Dayton. And I'm stepping off the board. I term out in 2024, and I look at it as a proud accomplishment. And so that's where the advocacy and the stepping to the plate and being in the room and being at the board meetings for 2 hours when you're going over procedure and policy and all those things, it matters because then you can affect the kind of change of bringing free music to everyone, right? Then Ohio Dance. Dance is always going to be my love. I mean, the rigors of ballet, the rigors of turning this body into a ballet dancer will always stay with me. I think that helps with the art show, even though I do fidget behind the camera and I hear stop moving. I get that a lot. But with Ohio Dance, I was board president. I'm board president. We were able, because of being with the art show, I said, hey, we have this thing called the Virtual Dance Collection. And what the Virtual Dance Collection is that we have captured the history and the stories of all the great dance makers and dance organizations in Ohio, and we've put it on a website. So we have interviewed dancers and choreographers and teachers. We have representation from all over the state. And I said, we could turn this into a documentary. We could turn this into something to be shown on television. And so we approached CET and Think TV, and we did show a documentary, and this documentary was nominated for an Emmy. So it's like, we could tell the story, it's like in those ways, in those connective threads, lead to so many different things. And so by your support of the art show, You're supporting not just this enjoyment of these great, fantastic stories that we tell, but the fact that it leads to other things and it just expands out. I cannot think of, I don't think I could have had this much of an impact in the arts and culture anywhere else other than Southwest Ohio and Ohio. It would be a struggle. I'd be living in a shoebox in Brooklyn, duking it out for the piece of bread with a rat, or I could live in Ohio and not have stress, not have LA prices and living in a shoebox. I mean, there are some advantages to not having that pressure of life to be a creative soul. And so I look at the art show in that kind of realm, that it just does so many cool and fun things and some fun stories. And so that's how the art show came to be. It came through from a thing that could have easily been a dark time. It turned into, talk about turning a lemon into a lemonade. It turned into more possibilities, and now we do podcasting. We do live broadcasts on social media. Because of COVID, we couldn't all be in a room, and now we can be. So I'm willing and able and always going to be there telling the story of art and culture, because it definitely has changed my life. It has led to now producing a documentary on Bing Davis. How many people know who Bing Davis is? Oh, yes. Bing Davis is the OG of art makers. He is 86 years old, and he just got off a plane past Monday, from South Africa, talking about art and democracy. At 86, he's out there telling the story of art and how it can change lives. He is from Dayton, Ohio, and if you ever met him, he's kind of like David Stark, very tall, you can't miss him, very distinguished, And so you see him, but he is the most humble, gentle soul, but his art is so profound. It is the kind of art that you wish you could make. We interviewed James Pate, who was a friend and a mentee of Bing, and said, we're all just trying to keep up with Bing. I mean, we really are. We can't. I mean, he's making constantly. He is constantly in demand to speak. He's constantly in things. So we want to tell that story, and that's the power of what we do at Think TV and CET, is to tell these kind of rich stories about this man who changed the fabric of Dayton, has changed the fabric of our country. He's internationally renowned. He has art on every continent except Australia, but we'll figure it out. We think there might be some art there. He's that internationally renowned. And he's only 45 minutes away. And if you knocked on his door, he would let you in, offer you some tea, and share his love of art with you. And you would walk out a changed person. That's the power of being from the Midwest and from Ohio. We're open. We're open for business. We're open with our hearts. We're willing to bring you in to kind of bring in the arts. So my favorite thing another thing about this show that I really love, I got to meet the artist who paints racehorses. And so we went down to, and Ann's going to help me with this. What is that racetrack? Is it Keeneland?
I wasn't on that shoot, but I think it's
John Englehart, photographer. And it's just, he photographs racehorses. And so we actually went on location down to the racetrack. I'd never been around that many horses, and it was just a joy to watch them practice and run, and they were filming, like, this is kind of cool. And I got to go to the stables and pet a horse and talk to them about how to maintain a racehorse, and come on, you get the fun parts of it. That's the fun part. You still have to memorize a script and read a teleprompter. That was kind of tough in broad daylight, but that's the joy of it. And then there was another story of the art show, which I really, really love, is Lisa Hapapuro. She's a local artist, and we interviewed her while she was making a sculpted bust of my head. And she talked about the fact that she worked in social work, and she worked in facilities in Detroit with children that were kind of marginalized, not kind of thrown to the wayside through the social service network. But she was the kindest, gentlest soul as she's sculpting in clay. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for you to fire this. And then she went, no. This is just the bust so that I can make a mold, and we're going to make this out of broken bits of glass. So she molded and shaped this bust of my head. And then she made a cast, and the cast was then poured with glass. And then she gave me the bust, which sits on my dining room table. So, I mean, that kind of like, watching someone make something that looks so much like you, and then you realize that she was doing it with such love and care, and she's telling her story of how these experiences humbled her and made her want to pursue art making and to kind of capture the essence of human beings, because that was her goal. She says, we have a tendency to look past people. I want to see you. I want the audience to see that person and really reflect and respond on them. And that's Lisa Hopper-Perot. So that's the art show. The art show is all of these amazing things. And so, super cool. So I know at some point Ian is supposed to walk around with a microphone. If you have any questions, I'm an open book. I will tell anything. The crew knows this. Ann knows this. I'll just spill it all. It's all good. Any questions? Ask away.
They all being shy today.
Oh, don't be shy. No.
Questions? No? One here. Thank you.
It sounds like you've had a lot of really good experiences, but I'm wondering, do you ever get someone who's not so nice or is very arrogant, or how would you handle that?
Don't answer that question.
Ian, I wouldn't tell the story about you. But no, Ian was really great to interview. The thing is, it's so I don't think we've ever had a difficult experience, because you're interviewing people who love what they do. They are so in love with what they make and create or in their world that they're just like little nuggets of love. And you're like, I just want to be in a room with you. It's super cool. Honestly, we've never encountered anyone who's been like, oh, like what? No. I meet those people in the classroom. I usually kick them out, but that's all good. It's like, change your attitude and then come back and we'll start dancing. Yeah.
I'm getting my steps in today.
Get those steps in. I walked this morning too, Ian, by the way.
Has everybody tuned into Rodney? Rodney walks every day. I might be speaking a little out of school, but Rodney walks every day. Two things he'll do. He'll take you on his walk if you want to join him on social media, but he finds the most interesting things. Can we go back to that after this question?
Oh, totally.
So I'm going to give you your question.
My question is, I can't get that kindergarten child out of my head. A child who can produce art like that. And, as a former teacher, some of the children you get in the classroom, you just have to stand back and set the table for them, and back up, and to me, that child is a prodigy. I mean, like the child who can play Chopin or anybody, who just plays, and whatever. Do you ever follow or know what happened to this young person?
Are you talking about the art maker? That was actually me when I was in kindergarten.
Was that you?
That was me. Yeah.
I wondered about that.
That was me. That was Mom. That was me. That was me. That's why I remembered it as an experience.
I'm going in my head and I'm thinking, can you talk a little bit about educators and what they did to step back or to encourage you, or what you needed, because you're still 5 or 6 years old,
I'm still that kid.
He had a good
You've been
parent.
talking to my mom. I mean, that's what
That's what it meant.
Like, yeah, I'm still that kid. But the thing is, I ended up, I'm an educator, so I have tremendous respect for educators. I think that they are the most important asset in our communities. I think that they're the gatekeepers to stepping back, like you said, to allowing someone to express themselves and to be who they are. That's as an educator, we notice those kids. We notice those kids who really got that little, okay.
Yeah.
Let me just do this. and do interference. Sometimes what I find is that there are usually that kid who has that exceptional skill or talent is misunderstood
Yeah.
because they only want to do the one talent. And having taught at Stiver School for the Arts, they maybe weren't doing as well academically, but they were doing exceptionally well in dance. So I could be the advocate and say, I could go to them and say, you know what, Brianna, I love that you are a phenomenal mover, but you've got to pass the math class.
Yeah.
You've
Well,
got to do
it's
better.
patterns,
Yeah.
math is a pattern, and that's our,
This
you know,
matters to the fact that we are doing, like, we should put patterns, and you have to understand, numbers. And there's like, this will matter to you if you trust me in telling you it will matter
Yeah,
to you.
yeah.
I have enough faith in you to believe that you can rise to any occasion thrown to you because of how exceptional you are as a dancer. But we have to be educators to be able to recognize that and say it. We
Right.
have to do it. We have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kindergarten, first grade teachers, I think,
Oh, yeah.
deserve all the
All of
accolades.
our, yeah.
Because they mold, I mean, some of these children
She
were
kicked it in
raised by
gear.
wolves, we think. And
My kindergarten teacher
sometimes.
kicked it into gear because
Yeah.
then my parents were all in. Then it was like,
Yeah.
all I ever got were art supplies for Christmas. So it's like, so because this is what you are doing, because that they told, your son is showing an aptitude and a skill.
So that child was you.
That child was me. And then I end up doing this. Oh my gosh, who knew? My parents still are confused. How did this happen?
You want to tell us a little bit about those morning walks, because if you've seen them, if you've known Rodney on social media, as I said, he'll talk you through his morning walk, but he finds the most extraordinary things.
Right.
I don't know what the streets of Hamilton are littered with, but Dayton is certainly a place to be at 6 a.m.
6 a.m., yeah. So I walk
Oh, yeah.
every morning because of just wanting to stay alive as long as I can. I recognize that. But when I'm walking, I walk in the mornings. It's a great way to clear your head. And as I'm walking through the streets today, I find things just laying on the sidewalk. I found half of a wedding cake. I have found every version of Patron, what is that, tequila? I didn't realize they were in different colored bottles. I was like, oh, okay, well, and I find them just sitting, just random. I found shoes, like literally, like at one point, it looked like someone just stepped out of their shoes and they just left them sitting there. I found complete ensembles laying in the street. I found records. I found a record this Sunday. It was an R&B album just laying right there, the album cover. I'm like, okay, sure. Wedding veils, you name it. It's like people have lost the contents of their purse and it's just kind of sprued across, and a full suitcase just laid open. I mean, you name it. You find it on the street. But when you walk, I found out what clearly was a Barbie on steroids, about this tall, and it was just propped up against the wall, but it was missing a leg. And I was like, click. I'm like, just keep right on walking. So I was like, and you go back then, because I walk the same patterns, and you go back, and they're gone. They've been cleaned up, and then something new just appears. And so there's a whole year's worth of these photographs of these odd objects in Dayton, Ohio. Dayton is not that weird. We're a nice place. We really are. We're good people. But that's what I discover on my walks. So, yeah.
Got one over here. Excuse me.
You know, you talked about losing 60-some pounds, and you must have been a stick at that point, because I'm sure with dance, you were quite lean. So how did you get over all of this? And is it cured, or how is this happening with you?
It's in remission, so it will never leave. So these sarcoidosis just produces nodules in your body, and so sometimes when I'm sleeping, I'll feel a nodule, like oh, and it'll wake me up, but it's there, and so they're not in. I test regularly once a year, nothing. It hasn't grown in size, or new ones have appeared. So we're golden, we're good, loving it. Yay. But the process was the prednisone. It was heavy dosages of prednisone a day. I think I was doing 80 milligrams of prednisone a day. Anyone who's ever had that steroid will tell you that's not fun to grow your body back. It was painful. It was painful. But then my body was trying to, it was almost like I was jump-starting my body. And so my body was, and I was still functioning. That's the weird part. I was still teaching dance. I was still making art. I was still going to things, and people would just go, wow, you're really thin. My boss at Sinclair said, I didn't want to say anything. I thought you were trying to lose the weight. I was like, okay, no, Gina, no one wants to lose that much weight. And so it was a process of growing it back. Mostly at night was the roughest parts. I had a hard time sleeping. So now I'm an insomniac. I sleep very lightly. So that's hence why I'm up at 6 a.m. walking, because well, I'm up. I'm up just to start walking. But it's good. It's good. It taught me a lot. Changed some things.
It's a great question. David, you have that look? No. One from the CET table over here as well. Do you have a deadline you have to meet?
No. It's like, you need to work, right? And get back to work.
Rodney, when we see you on the art show on TV, everything looks just sunny and bright and beautiful. Can you talk about shooting in that space, especially in the wintertime, on cold, snowy days?
Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God, yes. Okay, so we shoot in this building, the building where we did shoot in. We discovered in the winter that there were some very drafty windows, and the winter was coming through the building. So it was at least 20 to 30 degrees cooler in the room than it was outside. But it's predominantly, I want to say, season 3 through 9. So if you go back and you see the brick walls, just think, every time I'm there in my short sleeve shirt and it's 30 degrees cooler than, and I'm going, welcome to the art show. Smiling. And I'm a glutton for punishment. So yeah, it is really, so the conditions, the inverse of that is when we're shooting in the summer, then it's 30 degrees hotter and you're wearing a sweater because you're taping in the summer for fall and winter. So you're wearing fall and winter clothing inside of a room that you're just flop sweating. It's like, towels. Here's the fan, Rodney. Stand in front of the fan. I'm like this. Trying to stay cool. Yeah.
David, did you have a question?
Thank you for being here today, Rodney. Always good to see you.
David.
I'm wondering, what are some elements of the upcoming season of the art show that you guys may already have landed and that you're particularly looking forward to? Oh. Anything yet? Maybe you can't give any spoilers. I don't know.
What can I say? I'm looking at that table because they're the ones in charge. I'm like, what can I say? What can I say? Aviation heritage, yes. Well, so we're doing something really, can I talk about this thing called mini docs? Because I'm learning the lingo of TV. So we're kind of doing more involved stories now with our local stories. So instead of like trying to bang out an episode, bang out a segment in a couple of days, we're spending an extended period of time. And so one of the examples of that is in Allwood. It's what you saw it in the clip. It's the trolls. They're in the park. And so we caught them at different seasons. So that was over time to kind of capture this essence of these troll-like figures. So we're doing the same thing with aviation as well. So it's kind of giving a more in-depth story. And it goes back to what I said earlier. The clips that we are producing locally are going into that national pool. So other people in the country are finding out about how cool we are in Ohio. So come on. That's the best part for me. Like people are genuinely like, wow, Ohio, who would have thunk it? Because we don't talk about Ohio in positive ways. Shocking. We should talk about it in such positive ways. There are good things here. There are great things here. Yeah. But that's coming. Those are the kind of stories we're going to be telling, Aviation Trail, which I'm excited about.
Got a question from the cameraman. Wow.
Oh my God. The cameraman has a question.
Do I need to get the camera and turn it on him so we can... Jeff Archibald, ladies and
Behind
gentlemen.
the scenes asking questions. That's even,
There we
that's even
go.
better. Yeah.
So, Rodney, one thing that people never get to see, but I got a good shot of it now, Steve wants to take that, is you have an amazing shoe game. Your shoe game is tight. You got some amazing shoes today.
Oh, yeah.
But
You
you
never
never get
see
to
my
see them on
shoes.
TV. Can you talk about your shoe game and the fact that it's wasted on television?
Thank you. I talk about this all the time. Oh, shoes are an obsession. It's like, it is ridiculous. I was this way, I've been this way since I was in high school. I mean, my parents were like, really? Do you really need to take 50 pairs of shoes to college? What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, the car was filled with shoes. I've stopped counting at 200 pair. I would call that an addiction to shoes. I feel this way at a certain point. I mean, I take the attitude about the shoe game, like you get one go around. Have some fun. And the one place I can have fun is the shoes. So we'll talk. I was ordered a pair this morning before I got here, but we'll talk. We will definitely talk. I mean, it's just fun. Like, that's the one thing as men, like, shoes you can have some fun with. And I just feel like, and I wear. My mom is not a fan of my wardrobe, by the way, but she's like, it's a little colorful. I said, well, you met your mom. My grandmother was the one who really was an influence. My grandmother was a peacock. I mean, she was the grandest of peacocks, and she was like all about color. I think that sunk in, and I just was like, color. Let's just wear color and just have fun with it. Yeah, why not? I'm like, why are we stuck? Like, that's what I love being an artist. I'm like, I never wear a suit. Other than a tuxedo. You might see me in a sequin tuxedo. You might see me in a floral print jacket. I'm gonna do it differently. I'm like, you know what? Let's have some fun with it. I've got that jacket too. Do you really? Yeah, we are brothers from another. Yes, you and I are talking afterwards. A fellow peacock. Yes, I found my tribe. I love it.
So I know that you started the podcast last year. Is there anything different about doing a podcast than doing an on-air show? Like, how has that been different for you? And when does season 2 start?
Soon. Okay, so because I did talk about we do a podcast, and there's what's different about the podcast is it's conversational. I get to just have this conversation with this art maker, and it's usually about an hour, and it's not scripted. I'm just curious about what inspired them to be an artist, what details in their life were fascinating to them, what led them to this voyage of discovery. Season 1, we had such great guest. Joey Munda is a 2-time Tony Award-winning producer who went to Wright State from Ohio. See? Remember, it goes back to that whole thing about we're the ones ruling the creative culture. Ohio is really the center of creativity. And he was so fascinated. His parents were so into his desire to be in musical theater, and that even though they didn't understand it, they were like, he's from Lorain, Ohio, I believe. And he talked about his dad was an accountant and his mom was, I forgot what his mom did, but they were not the typical things that would lead to a life of musical theater. I'm singing, it's like dancing. It's like, who, really? My dad worked in a factory and my mom was a secretary, and there I am making art and dancing. So that wasn't normal. And so those kind of conversations about, he went to Wright State and he realized that he was never going to be a musical theater superstar, but he had this thing about he knew what would work on a stage. And that's where he honed the skills of producing. And now he has 2 Tonys, right? Then it's like Hannah Beekler. How many people, Black Panther, the production designer for the film Black Panther. She is from Centerville, Ohio. She won the Oscar for production design. She talked about, what I love is the fact that sometimes you need someone to tell you need to rethink your strategy. And one of the things that our mentor told her is like, you've got to stop doing production design for those crappy horror films. So at the time, she was making all those like Final Destination 4. You know those things that go straight to video? They're like things that you would never, your kids or your grandkids might watch. You're like, ugh, ugh. And she was doing those kind of grade Z productions, right? But someone said, no, you need to ask for what you want. You need to put yourself in a place to do the kind of work you're talented at. Quit doing crap, basically. And that led to her working on Fruitvale Station with Ryan Coogler, who ended up becoming the director of Black Panther. And they've been a producing team ever since. So it's that kind of stuff of finding that stuff out. And so season 2 starts soon. We just interviewed Glenna Jennings last week. We're going to be interviewing a comedian, a lifelong comedian, someone who has made their like a journeyman career as a comedian. We crossing our fingers to get the culinary team at Jollity. If you've ever been to Dayton, you got to go to Jollity. That is some really great eating. That's an eating experience. And those chefs are pretty fantastic. And so we're hoping to get those. And we're also going to be talking to Bing Davis's wife, Audrey Davis, who is a great artist, educator, activist in her own right. So I get to have that conversation. So I get to have these conversations with these really cool people. And the podcast is available anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Apple, Spotify. That tripped me out when I found it on Spotify. I was like, whoa, here I am. Rodney Veal's inspired by. And we got merch. So it's that's amazing. I was like, I'm so freaked out about it. I'm like, oh my God, merch. There's name. What? This is not, like I said, wasn't on the bingo card of life. We have merchandise. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Any other questions from the floor? Oh, a couple more for you here.
Got a couple there. It's cool.
Hi, I was just wondering if we would get a sample of your dancing talent today. Just a tidbit.
Okay, there we go. Okay. There you go. I'm 58, so that was like, ooh, I'm going to pay for that tomorrow. I will pay for that tomorrow. But, I still move. I'm afraid I performed at the Cincinnati Fringe Festival this past summer. The old man still has some gas in his tank. Teresa Vanderen Sorg, hello Teresa, was super awesome. She invited me to be in this piece, and it was a beautiful piece. And she said, I wanted to do it with someone who, a little older. She said, she didn't want to offend. I said, Teresa, no offense is taken. We're both at a certain age. We're not 20. When you're 20, you do anything. But there's a different gravitas to dancing at this age, and because it's not normal, we don't kind of embrace that. So I embraced it, loved it. I was like, oh, I can still do it. So I may be performing again in the spring, so we'll see. Yeah, at the Dayton Art Institute.
I don't really have a question, but I wanted to thank CET and you for what you do. And as a member, I can watch it anytime I want on Passport.
That is correct.
It is marvelous.
Oh my God. Yes, I know. Isn't that cool? Isn't that the coolest thing? We have such great programming and content at PBS. PBS is the cornerstone. And when I told the story about the English as a second language for the young lady and her son, that matters, that we do the kind of program that's going to change a life, that's going to make life better. We find out these interesting stories. I fell in love with the Ken Burns country music documentary. I am in love with that. I am obsessed. I am obsessed with country music right now. It's like a thing. And that's only because of PBS. And you can watch it with a passport. You should all be members of PBS. Come on. We do good stuff. Come on. Shameless plug there. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, could we please put our hands together for the magnificent Mr. Rodney Veal.
There we go. We're going to bow in.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It would be remiss of me not to thank our incredible caterers at Two Women in a Kitchen. How about lunch again? Not only will you be seeing them every celebrating self, but as you might see in your red hymnals there, right on your table, that a young lady called Kirsten Spicer, who leads that merry team from Two Women in a Kitchen, will be here on stage and on your tables for party time later in the season as she brings things together. And I'd also like to thank our good friends over there from Hamilton High School, from the transitions team. Thank you for being here and volunteering and welcoming us. And a huge shout out to our friends, TV Hamilton, an incredible supporter and partner here at the Fitness Center, and being rebroadcast today with our friends at CET and PBS. We really do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, Mr. Rodney Veal. Come in and plug in an electric car with us. We'll see you very soon here again at the Fitness Center for Creative Arts. Have a lovely afternoon, and goodbye.